Sarah and I met 6 years ago. I was planning a vacation, come out and see my college baseball buddy. It was the first night I had got in town, and we went to a little country bar called the Grizzly Rose. And we had spent about an hour in there, and then this cute girl comes walking by me, and I didn't know what to say. And I said the first thing that came out, I was like, "Are you okay?"
The first night that I met, I kind of think I was in shock. And then we went out the next night, and I just couldn't stop laughing.
Kind of liked this girl and like to spend a little bit more time with her in Colorado. So over the next week, I hung out with my buddies, but I really had this girl on my mind. And knowing I only had 7 days out here was really hard towards them, because I knew I had met this perfect girl, and yet I live 2,000 miles away in Virginia Beach.
We started out long distance, and I think that it was really hard to, those little memories that you wanted to have with them, like little things like, "Hey, can I make dinner for you tonight?" That was something that always had to be planned. But then on the other side of it, Austin made every single time he was here or I was there so special.
Long distance is tough. I don't want to sugarcoat it. Long distance is something that I would never want to go through again.
We would call them day dates, and the memories that we would have going to the Nature and Science Museum in Virginia or the zoo here in Denver. I just think that we made so many memories in such a short amount of time, and I loved that.
So I got a great job back home. I have my family, and here I am. They see me leave and go to Colorado every 6 weeks, and really falling in love with this girl.
And did I ever think Austin was gonna move? I'm gonna be honest with you. At the back of my mind, I was really wondering if he was.
I'm gonna be completely honest with you. We've been together for 6 years, but a year of that, we weren't together. And she had a tragedy in her life that, she lost her mother. Not a lot of people know this, but she was gonna move to Virginia. And I had a great job. And then I got a phone call one day, and that changed everything.
After my mom passed away, there was just I think you just see that life is short, and you want to be with the people that you love. When you love somebody as much as Austin loves me, it's just, you can feel it, and everybody could see it. And I think at that point, I knew, but I don't think that Austin knew yet.
I made some promises to her, and I was in love with her. And I knew that if I didn't take this shot, that I would regret it for the rest of my life. And I knew I was ready to marry Sarah, honestly, probably about a year ago.
When I think about, was I suspecting it? Austin and we looked at rings. And so I kind of hinted at it. And then it had been a long time. Nothing. It was dead after that. He didn't say anything. We didn't talk about it anymore.
It was on a November random weekend day where I'm sitting there with the dogs, and we're up on top of Lookout Mountain where I was asking her, and they were being their typical self, running me crazy, and I just couldn't stop thinking about her.
I would say a month ago, I said, "Austin, do you see us doing this in the near future?" And he said, "Oh yeah, within the year." And I was like, okay, kind of getting a little sad, but I just let it go.
This is the girl I want to be with for the rest of my life. So why am I waiting around? And it just hit me right there that I knew at that moment that she was the one. And that's when I went the next day and went and bought a ring. It's the middle of winter in Colorado. Can't ever tell about the weather. And I said, well, I know where I want to ask her. I want to ask her on the side of Lookout Mountain where I always go. And I saw this little spot, and I said, well, it's kind of cool. It's got a little hike. And it got me thinking about her story. And, from there I said, well, wouldn't that be kind of cool to play out our story on a hike, set up pictures of us, and, at the end of it, sit there and ask her to marry me.
Over the last couple weeks, I will say Austin has been acting a little weird.
I worked at night, and felt like I was always on the clock because she was wondering where I was at. Even that week, she was like, "Man, you're being so needy this week," because I wanted to know where she was at all times. I was afraid she was gonna catch me putting stuff together for this proposal.
Asking me little details that he'd never asked me before, But I did not think that he was gonna propose this weekend. I truly had no idea.
The main thing is I gotta get her up on top of this mountain and not give it away. And it's Colorado and it's 10 degrees. And as soon as I say, hey, come up to Lookout Mountain with me, she's gonna know exactly what I'm doing. So I said, well, no other better way to do it than have her friends take her to brunch and the distress call, tell her I'm in trouble.
So this Saturday, I was planning on going to brunch with my friends, and looking back, they kept the secret so well, and they totally made brunch think it was more my idea.
The day of the proposal, I remember she was going to work out, and I told her, I said, hey, I'm gonna go probably walk the dogs later on while you're at brunch. And she says, all right, that's just like a typical day for him. He's gonna go up in the mountains and run the dogs. And when I went up there, I kind of had everything set up where I said, at 1:30, I'm gonna call her and tell her my car got towed on the side of the mountain. And of course, I'm with the dogs, so she's gonna be ready to probably save me, but also save the dogs.
He texts me and says, hey, I have a problem. So automatically my mind goes to the dogs. And so I call him and I'm like, hey, what's wrong with Bo? He says, nothing's wrong with Bo. Well, what's wrong with Ty? Nothing's wrong with Ty. So he says that his car was towed.
Bo doesn't have a leash, so we're gonna walk back down. I know, but I need to know when you're kind of close, that way I know to come back up.
And looking back on it now, towing a truck down Lookout Mountain doesn't really happen, but at the time I, of course, was like, oh my gosh, I need to go save the dogs and Austin. Dogs and Austin.
And it wasn't for about 10 minutes till I got a text from her friends saying, hey, we're 10 minutes away. Here we go. Here it's game time. I remember I looked at, my buddies and I said, I think I need to take about 5 minutes. And they said, yeah, man, do what you gotta do. We got this. I was getting like chills thinking about it. I was sitting over there with a dozen roses. Now there's a congregation of people watching me in the distance because they know what's going down. I think I was just anxious, excited for her to pull up and really get ready to take this next step with me.
I remember getting out of the car and seeing Austin with a bouquet of roses. Hi, Austin.
Will you walk with me?
Okay.
Hey, sweetie.
Hi. Hi.
And she got out of the car and I said, I want you to walk with me. I want you to come walk our story.
And I just started bawling right then because I think I knew exactly what was happening. Hi. Hi. I love you too.
These are for you.
Thank you. Why are there photographers?
She obviously knew I was going to be asking her soon, but I wanted her to. I wanted to enjoy it. And we were walking the story. You see that picture right there?
Yeah, I know where the picture is.
Remember that one?
Uh-huh. And Austin just did a really great job of just walking us through what the last 6 years would look like, starting with us and then my family and his family.
We were looking at the pictures of our first date almost 6 years ago. We looked like two completely young kids. All the pictures were a lot of fun. And then it kind of started getting pretty real when we got to our family. Then we got to her family and I saw what I was putting her through, and I knew she'd be excited, but I knew she would be crying when she saw her mom. See this picture right here? Remember that day? That's you and your mom and dad and brother. And you know what? I've talked to both your dad and brother and they're so excited. Look how beautiful your mom was, right?
He picked the picture of the day that I graduated college, and he took the picture, but my mom was looking at me, and my dad was looking at me, and my brother was looking at me, and it just made it feel like my mom was there in a sense.
Now this one right here, the dogs are fine, but this is our little family.
Where are our dogs?
They're in the truck.
Okay.
I remember as soon as I got done showing her the last picture of me and the dogs and her, I was like, okay, here's your big speech. Here's what you've been working on in the shower. You know, I didn't know what I was gonna say, but I knew what I wanted to get out. And that's when I sat there and I went to my spot. I picked out near the table and made a promise to her.
So on this day, a couple months ago, I was walking up here. I could not stop thinking about you, sweetie. And I was walking with our amazing dogs, right? And I was sitting there and I was like, ah, man, it's like it just hit me, I knew, okay?
Okay.
So, sweetheart,
I love you so much.
you know you're my best friend, okay?
You're my best friend too.
No, when you're beside me, you make me a better person. I've made a lot of promises in my life. I want to promise you that no man's going to work harder to care and love for you than I will, okay? Sarah J. Myers?
Yeah.
Will you marry me? Probably need a ring, don't I? Will you marry me?
Of course I will.
I love you.
Of course I will. That's a beautiful ring.
I know you like the ring, huh? She said yes, boys.
Oh my God. Austin. I thought I was coming up here to save you and I was really annoyed.
Were you?
And then the dogs came out and that was even better that the dogs were there and yeah, it was magical, it was perfect.
Everybody was thinking I was going so big and so grand, but in reality, doesn't someone that you love deserve that? I mean, that's what I would expect for someone that's looking to marry him. Do something awesome. Show everyone how much you love this person.
He loves me unconditionally, and I'm just so lucky that I met him 6 years ago because my life would be completely different without him.